Hey, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another video. And mainly this is because very nice guy named Chris, if I get my theme correct, shit, come on. Alright, hopefully they'll be a little bit better. Chris, he asked me to do a commentary on this film he sent me, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. I don't know how good this commentary will be because this is a film that I do enjoy, but I have not seen a lot, to be honest. I mean, I reviewed the Poltergeist films, including the remake. All of those reviews are still on the channel. But again, Chris, very nice guy from Louisiana, sent me this, asked for a commentary. Figures the least I can do for such a nice gift. So here we go. Yeah, I don't know how good this will be. But 3, 2, 1, pressing play. MGM Lion, and this is a sequel. I mean, of course, came out a few years after the first one. First one was a surprise hit, produced by Steven Spielberg, directed by Tobe Hooper. Of course, depending on who you ask, they say Steven Spielberg really directed it. That's an ongoing debate to this day, because Zelda Rubinstein, she had mentioned the only person she worked with was Steven Spielberg. They mentioned that Tobe Hooper may have been a drug user. No one is willing to tell the full story. Film came out, was a hit. Of course, there was this whole thing about the Poltergeist curse, because in the first film, the actress that played the older daughter, she was murdered by her asshole boyfriend. This one, you have this actor here, the Native American who passed away, Will Sampson, and then also the villain Julian Beck, I believe had cancer while making this. That's why he looks the way he does. Then Heather Ward in part 3. I don't believe in the curse. I just think it's just a series of unfortunate events. Now, I do like the effects in this movie. The effects guys, you have people like Steve Johnson, Richard Edlund, even Streaming Mad George work on some of the effects. And then some of the designs that you'll see later on were at first designed by H.R. Giger, same man who designed the Xenomorph and Alien. And I don't know, maybe this is one of those things that people were not really sold on, was the Native American aspect. I don't know, it doesn't bother me. Granted, he snorted the smoke up his nose like cocaine. The cocaine. So, don't get high in your supply. I think something about this lance, and to me it's a spear, but I've heard it called lance, was added afterward because they wanted an actual weapon for Craig T. Nelson to spear the creature, when originally just the power of love, but they wanted an actual weapon. And I mean, the Blu-ray is a pretty decent Blu-ray. You got 2 commentary tracks, one from the writer-producer Michael Grace, the other from a fan, David Furtney. The fan one was pretty good. He has a Poltergeist fan site. The only thing is, sometimes the audio seems a little bit low, and there's a couple of quiet spots, but a lot of good info from that commentary. which of course I completely forgot. I listened to the commentary like a few days ago. But I mean, there's also an interview with Oliver Robbins, the kid, the boy, interview with the effects guys, conversations on H.R. Dieter. Of course, this is the aftermath of the first film, where I know the guy who runs the Poltergeist fan website. He mentioned something about the original idea for a sequel was it was going to be a team going to this area that the house imploded and disappeared. And that there was going to be a team investigating because something else was going on. And maybe the family would be in it as, I don't know, counsel. I guess they would be in it, but it would star a team of scientists investigating this blip in the area that this house disappeared in, but they went a different direction. And I guess originally Zelda Rubinstein, or Rubinstein, I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'll say Rubinstein for the sake of argument. She was not going to be in the movie. And when she heard about it, she was mad. It's like, well, wait a minute, how come I'm not in the movie? So this part here where she's at this dig site, that was originally supposed to be Beatrice Straight, the woman who played the female scientist in the first movie. But for one reason or another, Beatrice Straight said no, so they popped Zelda Rubinstein in there. But yeah, I guess originally that was supposed to be Beatrice Straight. Now, of course, you have the graves. Maybe that's another thing people didn't care for, because I know the sequel was very much less highly reviewed. Pretty much middling to dwindling reviews when it came out. It did decently at the box office. Not as good as the first film, but enough that they wanted to make a Poltergeist 3 for as long as it was for a certain budget. Which they did, and Poltergeist 3 sucked. And the remake sucked. But the first two Poltergeists, I do think the first one is the best, but this one, I don't think it's that bad of a sequel. Like I said, Will Sampson here does a good job. Julian Beck, very memorable villain. The deathly appearance, because he was sadly dying at the time. I don't know if these skeletons are real or not, because I know something was mentioned about how on that fan commentary that getting real skeletons is a lot cheaper than building a fake skeleton. And at one point, Will Sampson felt the presence and wanted to have like a little exorcism type of prayer. So there you go. But this is the group of Julian Beck's flock of people. And that was the main thrust of the evil presence. Although there was also all the people in the gravesite, because they moved this, moved the tombstones. You just moved the tombstones. So I guess on top of that, you also had this group of people who died in the area under their house. And yeah, I think maybe some people didn't want an explanation to that. But I will say, because of that, you got a very memorable villain in Kane. which, I mean, when people talk about the film, that is one of the things to remember for good reason. I thought this actress that played the grandma, she did a good job. Of course, the family, they're still against having a TV. And Craig T. Nelson with long hair, he doesn't keep it for too long. But I mean, that's one of the things that does make this film work, is the family dynamic that we saw in the first movie, and they come back and everybody's back except, of course, the actress that was murdered. And they mentioned that her character, I believe, is in college. Craig T. Nelson, his character lost his job, and now he's down to selling vacuum cleaners door to door. They don't have money to get a new house because they couldn't get the insurance for the old house because it disappeared. Which I'm thinking, well, what do you think we did? We hid it in our back fucking pockets? Act of God, I think it's a good enough reason as any. Now, also, apparently some of these scenes were put out of order. Like this scene here was supposed to come later because she's drawing a picture of Kane. Later on is when she first sees Kane. And it was supposed to be, they first see that character. And then the scene where she's drawing the picture. But I mean, it works fine this way too. Because she has a little bit of a gift. Heather Ward, really good child actress. She did a solid job in all three Poltergeist films. I don't like Poltergeist 3 at all, but Heather Ward was far from the problem. And it's just really tragic what happened to her. I think what was his name again? Oliver Robbins mentioned how, Heather Ward had talked to him, and they were just kids, about, what to do in the future for movies, and maybe being a director one day. Sadly, that never came to be. But yeah, I mean, Craig T. Nelson, JoBeth Williams, I know they never talked about Poltergeist, and they definitely never talked about this one. And I can gather the little bits you read on the internet that they just did this till they got a bigger paycheck. Which I did, but I thought it's a pretty decent film, and they did a good job. And one of the things I like about this sequel, I like that they did, was if the first film was more JoBeth Williams' film, this one is more Craig T. Nelson's film. Which that's one of the few gripes I had about the first Poltergeist, is that Craig T. Nelson didn't really have a lot to do, and he's the father. So maybe like the writers or whoever knew that, so they said, okay, let's give Craig a bit more to do. So again, if the first is the mother story, this is the father story. So I think it makes a nice companion piece to the first film. And again, Craig T. Nelson, and they gave his character a bit more to do. I do think is one of the best parts of the film. And Craig T. Nelson's a good actor. I mean, he was in a TV show called Coach, which I do want to pick up on DVD sometime. I have it on my Amazon wish list because I haven't seen that show since I was a kid, but I do remember enjoying it. And he was the villain in Action Jackson. I believe he was in The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves. And he's popped up from time to time. I can't remember the last thing he was in that I've seen. But very solid actor. He didn't get to star in a lot of movies. But yeah, I mean, these two work well together. Trey T. Nelson and Joe Beth Williams. They still have the chemistry with each other. Again, it's one of those things where I don't really see why this film would get so much heat. I mean, if I have any nitpicks, I would say that finding out that Joe Beth Williams, Heather Ward, like all the females of the family have this psychic ability. I can't really say, like, Carol Ann, I could see it if she was, quote, touched. Not in that way. But she was on the other side and kind of like Stir of Echoes. You know, your receiver now. You can't turn it off. But the fact that, well, the whole family of the female part is psychic, it just makes them less everyman, regular family, and more of, oh, well, okay, there is something special. I don't know, I like more of the blue collar everyday appeal, and that makes it lose it a little bit. The fact that like Joe Beth and like they're part psychic, it's just something that I don't think you didn't need. But that's, you know, a little nitpick. Now this scene, I from what I understand, was supposed to be the first time we saw the family in here, where the kid is looking at the TV, and then she first sees Kane, and then that's why she would draw his picture. But they flipped it around. I don't know, whatever reason, just because. But yeah, Julian Beck. It's funny, I've been watching this TV show of Miami Vice. First time I've seen it. I've heard so much about it. I picked up the DVD set. It was only $25 for all 5 seasons. I was watching the first season. Was it the second? It was like end of season 1, beginning of season 2. It was one of those. And Julian Beck was in an episode. It might have been the beginning of season 2. The premiere. I'm like, I know that guy sounds familiar. Holy shit, it's Julian Beck. God is in his holy temple. Be silent now. Just very creepy demeanor, creepy vibe. If you don't have a villain to go up against the family, that's a very worthwhile, memorable performance. And I think even people who don't like the film, they at least mention, you know, Craig T. Nelson and Julian Beck and some of the special effects. But yeah, I think it's other than a few nitpicks with, you know, having a good chunk of the family be psychic, it's a good continuation of the first film. Did it need a sequel? No, the first film pretty much said all that you needed to say, but considering a lot of bad sequels I've seen of lately, like Terminator Dark Fate. Oh, one thing, if you notice, Jo Beth Williams is wearing the same sweater when she saw Craig T. Nelson earlier and was chatting with him. Because this scene was going to be right after the grandma talked with Carol Ann about the drawing she's doing, and right after that, then they would have this conversation. So that's why Jo Beth is wearing the same sweater, apparently for 2 nights, but hey, I do the same thing, so who am I to talk? Who am I to talk about that? Trying to think. I can't say, again, this is one of those that I never would have thought of doing a commentary for other than Chris asked for it. Because, like I said, I didn't grow up with the movie. I never grew up with the film. I saw it much later in life. I would probably the only one I saw as a kid was the first movie. And you know, it was much later that I saw Poltergeist 2 and 3. I actually have the DVD that has both of them. It's like I believe it's like a flipper disc, which I hate flipper disc because it seems like flipper disc, they stretch easier for DVD. I don't know why. But like I said, the woman who plays the grandma, she did a good job. And we're getting up to the point where, you know, when you rewatch it, you realize that the grandma has passed away, and then she talks on the phone to her grandma. So instead of talking to the TV in the first one, this is the phone in the second one, which explains why you had the teaser where it's going through the house, and then you know, her on the phone and going, "They're back," which I remember more from the Revenge of the Nerds 2 teaser that mocked that, because that was at the beginning of Predator, and I saw the VHS of Predator all the time, like countless times. So it got embedded in my memory, that teaser, the Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise. I saw that teaser more than that movie. And sadly, I like the teaser more than the movie. I like the first Revenge of the Nerds. The second one, it's there, but a lot better than 3 and 4. But the first one's, to me, the only truly good one of Revenge of the Nerds. And then they tried to remake it, and it got like canceled right in the middle of making it. I think it was the guy that made that film, Fanboys, was doing a remake of Revenge of the Nerds. I think it just got canceled. I think it was Revenge of the Nerds. Might have been a different movie. But yeah, okay, this is her on the toy phone. But yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the Revenge of the Nerds 2 teaser. Maybe Tweety Nelson does have the long hair for the entire film. I don't know. For some reason, I remember his hair becomes shorter later on. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, I'm looking up trivia on IMDb. Let's see. Because the only family member absent is Dominic Dunn, who was murdered shortly after the premiere of the first movie. Heather O'Rourke was so afraid of Julian Beck, Reverend Kane. The first time she saw him, she burst into tears. Understandable. Julian Beck's appearance is the result of the stomach cancer that would claim his life. Okay, several of the cadavers were real skeletons. The crew demanded an exorcism be held on the set to ease the rising tensions, which happened soon after. It says here the original running time was 131 minutes before being edited down to 86 minutes. Some have surmised that MGM rushed production and ordered the cuts, aka the final battle with Kane, lasts all of 2 minutes. Well, I did hear that on a commentary, that the battle with Kane was a lot longer. And for what I understand, the reason they did that and shortened it was because they knew that the effects of the family looking like in the middle of the sky with the glow from The Last Dragon, having the power of the glow, looked kind of funky. It does look kind of funky, I gotta admit that too. So again, like I said, the film has its flaws. The whole thing we saw here, that Jo Beth Williams has a bit of a psychic thing. I don't think you needed that. I think for a lot of people, it's just more appealing that this was just a regular, normal family in bad circumstances. I do like the effect of how that storm just appeared and sorry, I'm itching, and not my balls, itching my thigh. But yeah, I think this was added later to have like a jump scare effect with her being dragged in by these zombies. Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't added after. Maybe something else. Yeah, I'm not an expert on the film, folks. There's Robbie. He's reading Mad Magazine. God, Mad Magazine. Haven't thought about that magazine forever. When I was a kid, we actually had a Mad Magazine board game, which was pretty fun. Because in the Mad Magazine board game, it was the opposite of Monopoly, where your goal was to lose all your money. And you get these cars to do weird things like put on top of your head and walk backwards around the table that you guys were sitting at. Or, you know, weird things like that. But yeah, this looks cool, like the storm cloud and like the rain. Looked like the rain was going in slow motion. I could be wrong, but something about... I think something about they filmed that by... like in a tank or in water. And like they put something to have the smoke appear. It wasn't really smoke, but you know, appear like smoke. But it was in the water. I cannot remember all the details. But I mean, yeah, it's like the phone. They're trying to redo the TV, but instead it's the toy phone. Later on with Robbie, instead of the tree, it's the braces. And but he said the cast sells it, and also Jerry Goldsmith's score. I should mention, Jerry Goldsmith had come back to do the music. And actually, yeah, there's around, I think around 86 this came out. And Jerry Goldsmith, if I have to pick a favorite composer, it would be Jerry Goldsmith. I mean, the first three Rambo films, Runaway, Star Trek the Motion Picture, Total Recall. Just Jerry Goldsmith did so many great scores. And I like these old school effects where it's like the spirits, and I don't know if that's animation, a certain type of animation, but I don't know, there's something about it that's more appealing to me than CGI. I can't help it. Just more, it looks better to me than CGI. It looks more, as stupid as it sounds, tangible. I don't know, just something about it just more visually pleasing to me. But again, that's just my opinion. But yeah, what carries the film is the family. And you know what? That's the thing. When you have likable characters and good actors, they can go a long way for a movie. And that was the tagline. They're back. And look, they're smart. They're like, once they heard it, no BS, no, oh, I don't believe you. They immediately decided to get the fuck out of Dodge. So, smart. They're being smart. Nice little push in there on the camera to Craig T. Nelson's character, Taylor. See, I think here is Trade has, yeah, Trade now has the short hair. I guess somehow he just decided to cut the, yeah, now he has the short hair. He just decided to cut the back of his hair randomly. It's not a big deal, but I just thought it was kind of weird. Like all of a sudden he has a different haircut. But yeah, Will Sampson is Taylor. Another good actor and good fun character, especially his banter with Tracy Nelson later on in the movie. So that's the thing. I don't think this is as bad as people make it out to be. Like I said, the Julian Beck is a good villain as Reverend Kane. Will Sampson, good character actor, good character. Some fun special effects. Another solid score by Jerry Goldsmith. Great cast. Family still likable. Again, it was nice that Tracy Nelson got more of a starring. He got more moments in this compared to Joel Beth in the first film. I thought that was a good. If you don't do a sequel, that's the right way of doing it. So you're not just totally copying and pasting everything. To show that both parents are worthwhile and not just one or the other. Now, this was directed by a guy named Brian Gibson, and I'll be honest, I don't know what else Brian Gibson went on to do. I don't think he's with us anymore either. Now this girl with the rolls or whatever the hell in her head. She's possessed. Mama, I'm coming home. Mamma mia, mamma mia. What happened? I don't know, she's just like a big redneck. What happened? You ain't funny. I don't know what happened. You might be a redneck if you get possessed by grandma. Let's see, I'm looking through the trivia again. Of course, Will Sampson here, he was probably most famous for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's the guy who was friends with Jack Nicholson, Juicy Fruit. And he's the one guy that escapes after finding Jack Nicholson's character lobotomized. Spoiler alert, but One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is from like 1975 or so. I mean, yeah, I mean, they talk about the Poltergeist curse. Actress Dominique Dunn was murdered by her boyfriend after finishing the first film. Actor Julian Beck died of stomach cancer. Stomach cancer after shooting the second film. Actor Will Sampson died from complications due to open heart surgery shortly after filming. Heather Ward died of a mystery case of intestinal stenosis shortly before completion of the third film. Also, many cast members' careers have suffered after appearing in the films. Oh, did they? I mean, Tracy Nelson had a successful run on Coach. Then that lasted quite a few years. Steven Spielberg. He's like the biggest name on there, and he went on to success. So, I mean, I don't know about that whole curse thing. This whole thing with the car. Again, Tracy Nelson and Will Sampson, they worked well together. Your car, very angry. And Tracy Nelson's like, uh-huh. You'll make it happen. And then that leads into, I think, the best line in the film. So your car is mad. No, that car's that mad. It is pissed. That car is pissed. I'll mention that when it comes up, but again, that's probably my favorite part of the film, character-wise, is these two guys interacting with each other. It says here, the International Extended Play Laserdisc features a new scene from the original cut. After Tangina comes to the house and Diane has just had a vision, Kane makes a second attempt at getting into the house. Scene plays out at 5 minutes, but edited down to a mere 8 seconds in the film. In the scene, Kane tries to torment Tangina and Diane, tells him to leave them alone. Kane says he remembers Diane as the one who took Carol Ann away from him. He says, "You won't win this time. I'm always watching. I will take Carol Ann from you, and there's nothing you can do about it." Tangina retorts by saying Taylor knows how to stop him because he's more powerful, and he will find a way to banish Kane and his followers forever, in which Kane looks rather worried. All Kane has to say is that I will find a way into the house, and when I do, I will kill you all. I think that was another thing that was maybe part of the original cut, was that Will Sampson's character, either this was part of the original script, or they filmed it and they cut it out, but Taylor, Will Sampson's character, apparently he was one of the people that was in Julian Beck's flock. But when they were getting killed or suicide, he was the one that ran off, and that this Taylor is a, what do you call it, reincarnation, soul of that character from long ago, and that's how he knows a lot about Kane. And yeah, I think it was either the script or or it was cut out of that over 2-hour cut. Which is always such that all these films that have all these extended cuts, original cuts, and so much of that deleted footage is gone. More than likely because studios back then, they didn't care. It's cut out of the film. Who cares? The only way it stays intact is if someone has the forthright of literally saving it. Like the people who did My Bloody Valentine. They said that something about they want to do a sequel and use that footage, which I don't know how the hell that would work. Or maybe if you can find a work print that's been leaked, like Hard Target. Oh, this is my favorite bit of dialogue. Taylor. Okay, you stay in the house, okay? You have my aura, my spirits, ghosts, the whole deal, the whole kasab. But keep your hands off my car. Okay? You hands off. It's worse than it was before. Car's still angry, huh? Angry? That car is pissed. That's fantastic. See, this is not that bad of a sequel. I mean, I'm almost halfway through. And now we have Julian Beck, the very creepy Reverend Kane, singing that song, God is in his holy temple. And it is sad when you look at him and you know that he was going through stomach cancer, and that's why he looked the way he did. And but man, I mean, think about that, is that you know you're dying and time is limited. So either A, you rest, enjoy your life, or no, I want to do a movie. And he did the movie because he wanted to be remembered on the screen, and he is. This is one of those characters people do remember to this day. Even if they don't care for the film, they do remember Reverend Kane. Just a really good, creepy performance. Which is why he's out front and center right on the cover there. I do wish they put Craig T. Nelson's face on there. I mean, he is a big part of the movie. He's a bigger part than Tangina. So, but I think that should have been like Craig T. Nelson instead of Tangina. But, hey, what do I know? Several scenes that appeared in press stills and promotional posters were cut from the film. Okay, I've mentioned that. One in which Steve and Diane see a flying toaster during a breakfast scene. Okay. Beatrice Straight was asked to reprise the role of Dr. Lesh, but she was ill and not willing to work at the time. That's understandable. Richard Lawson, who was asked to replace the role of Ryan, but his schedule clashed with MGM because he was filming under the influence. The film was at one point to have been filmed in 3D. That it was going to be. Several scenes such as the appearance of the beast and the flying chainsaw were filmed to take advantage of the process. Didn't need to be 3D. 3D is an overrated gimmick. The thing with Kane is that he preys on, he could know about you, and he preys on your, how would I put it? He preys on your fallacies, on your imperfections. Like he knows Craig T. Nelson doesn't trust Taylor, so he's trying to implore, hey, don't have him in your house. Then about how you're not the man of the house, and this is where Joe Beth Williams was having a psychic vision. Sorry, I'm being sad. I'm just watching Julian Bett perform. See, he's preying on Craig T. Nelson's character. They trust Taylor more than you. You're not man enough to be the man of the house, you know, to hold this family together. Which is smart of the villain to do. Let's see. Stupid cats. When you have cats, you gotta deal with stupidity. I don't know if this is true, but this is what it says here. In one scene, when realty dowels were used, an entire day's worth of film mysteriously came out completely black. The night before the reshoots, Will Sampson performed an exorcism at 4 a.m. in order to rid the set of evil spirits. Well, after this, Brian Gibson would not direct another film for 7 years. There you go. You are gonna die. And see, there's different ways you could have played it. You could have played where he's banging through the screen, he's kicking, screaming, and cursing. But it's just the moment where he's like, okay, I'm still the nice guy. Sorry you're not convinced. Walks off saying it again. Critic Gene Siskel hated the movie. Oh, that's a surprise. Hell, people think I hate everything. Gene Siskel is one of those guys that seemed like he hated everything. He said Jo Beth Williams had no shame having twice appeared nude at this point in Teachers and Kramer vs. Kramer. Why would he bring that up? She didn't appear nude in this. He called Tracy Nelson a clothes horse, if there ever was one. What the fuck does that mean? What the fuck is a clothes horse? He also slammed the movie's production for putting children in danger and getting off on that kind of salacious thrill. Oh, brother. So, did you hate the first one because it did the same fucking thing? Did you hate The Wizard of Oz? Because that's a kid who's in danger. I mean, not a little kid, but she wasn't like 40 years old. God damn. Yeah, Tracy Nelson was star and coach from 1989 to 1997. But so yeah, he did well. People are like, oh well, the people's careers. And then he did a good job. I mean, his career did fine. And here you have a little bit of the alcoholism for Tracy Nelson's character. But, I don't want to say he was inspired by The Shining. I just think of, haunting, alcoholism. But that's just what it made me think of. Jack Nicholson did a great job, but man, Tracy Nelson would have been interesting as Jack Torrance. That'd be an interesting choice. Although, I mean, I love Jack Nicholson. It's like my favorite role of his. But yeah, this is not a long film at all. With the end credits, it's like an hour and 30 minutes and 37 seconds. That's pretty short. I mean, we're over halfway through. And yeah, I'm in a different spot. Usually I'm sitting in the chair, but I figure if I'm going to, I'll just lay down, get comfy. And if you've been hearing noise, it's a fan. This is Texas, so it's always hot as hell. Trying to find a place to put the damn remote. Sorry I'm not saying much. Pretty much the scene is Tracy Nelson and Will Sampson talking about responsibility and pretty much trying to gear Tracy Nelson up to be the, to take the lead, to protect your family. And again, that's what I liked about it, was that, okay, Tracy Nelson, he didn't have anything to do in the first one. Let's give him something to do and be worthwhile in this one. And I appreciate that. That's one of the things I liked about this sequel. Why the hell is he shaving? He has no hair on his face. Now, I know they did that for the audience, but in the movie that doesn't make any sense, where the kid didn't see the skeleton rise up to hit him. It was Carol Ann's arm. So, again, how did that appear? It didn't appear for Robbie to see and get scared. It didn't appear... It's not like Carol Ann turned to a skeleton for 2 seconds. So really, what was the point? Here we get, instead of the tree in the first one, it's the braces, which I thought this was kind of... You know, they have the fake head where the braces come out, and then it's well, I mean, either you're seeing this or you're already seeing, you know what it is. That's a lot of metal. It's Tetsuo, the Iron Man, or whatever the fuck that movie was. Which I didn't care for that movie, but that's a movie I barely remember. So yeah, that, you have the water being blasted around. You know, fun little special effects scene. Whoops. And just thrown back and almost knocked the fuck out. But that's the thing that's missing from a lot of movies nowadays is, you know, horror movies I should say, is a good cast. I know people are like, what about this movie? What about Hereditary? What about Midsummer? Fuck Hereditary. Fuck Midsummer. Those movies suck. They're pretentious, they're boring, and they have really shitty, stupid endings. If you like them, that's cool. Teach their own. They're not my cup of tea. I'm sorry. They're not my cup of tea at all. I'll stay with Crawl. And then, you know, the Poltergeist remade, it was a Xerox of the first movie. Like, we don't have a script. We just copy and pasted the script, and then we put the year, was it 2015? When the hell did that come out? I remember. Copy, paste the script, then put a different year on it. And add in some drones. Or whatever the fuck it was. Fuck that remake. It's just really a boring remake. I mean, it's just a very forgettable remake. That's really its big crime. Forgettable and boring. And a fucking CGI squirrel. When it gets to a point that you have to CGI a fucking squirrel that's in a cage instead of just have... Just the idea that someone said, you know, what we're going to do to freak the audience out? Let's have a CGI squirrel in a cage. And you think this movie bad? Yes, you have characters like Will Sampson and Tracy Nelson and having actual discussions about what to do against this evil and how to fight it and needing to stick together and... Sorry, itching again. Stupid mosquitoes from outside. I don't have any in here. Just... I think I even remember the first time I saw this. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, Tracy Nelson's going to be taught to fight. Not physically fight, although Tracy Nelson does know Kung Fu and Action Jackson. But, you know, at least try to fight a little bit on the spiritual plane with his own cocaine smoke snoring up his nose, which we'll see later. It says here it came out 86. I don't know if that's true, because I can't remember the exact year. But it says here 1986. I believe the third one was 88. And the third one is awful for a number of reasons. You don't buy that this couple, Craig T. Nelson and JoBeth Williams, after these two films, they just willy-nilly send Carol Ann away. No, quite the opposite. They would have beepers on her and tracking signals, GPS. If she went to the fucking toilet, they have a GPS to see if she's there, and like they'd be watching her like a hawk because of the events of these two movies. Not sending her away to live with a fucking... That's stupid. That's ridiculous. It's just... They didn't want to come back, so... Then don't do the movie! But what do I know? And then... It's pretty boring until you get to some of the effects in the second half of the film. There's some interesting effects dealing with mirrors, some gags, or there's something in the garage and appearing as if things are frozen and snow. But then Tom Steyer, who I like, he sort of disappears, his character. And then Nancy Allen, who I like the actress, but her character was so unlikable because she just pretty much hated Carol Ann. And then we're supposed to buy, she does this 180 of liking Carol Ann just like that, and you don't buy it. There's no progression of it. And then the ending, like they shot an ending with Heather O'Rourke, but then they changed it. And when they changed it, Heather O'Rourke had passed away. So the final bits, you don't see Heather O'Rourke's face. You don't hear her voice. See her face, hear her voice. The final shot, she's like, her head's turned away from camera. And I'm like, why? If that's the last piece of Heather O'Rourke footage, why would you not have that in the movie? Fucking stupid, man. Fucking dumb. And why there has never been a good haunted house movie that took place in a skyscraper. To this fucking day, there still has not been a haunted skyscraper movie that's worth a fuck. Why? I mean, they do all these other fucking ghost movies. How many exorcism movies can we have? The exorcism of Fatty Arbuckle, the exorcism of Dynamo the Gigolo, exorcism of Emily Rose, exorcism of Michael Keane, exorcism of Mrs. fucking Doubtfire. I don't know, just enough with the exorcism. Like, have a haunted house movie in a skyscraper and be good. But that's when, Craig T. Nelson here got the smoke storing up his nose. Cocaine him. Of course, this is with JoBeth and Tangina. I think around here is when they would see Kane again. And there was like a big 5 minute, I guess like 5 or so minute scene. Tangina, I mean, it's cool that she's in this, but she doesn't really do a whole lot in this movie. She doesn't really... I mean, yeah, it's cool that she's in it, but she doesn't really do anything. There we go. Now it's getting a little bit cool, but I don't want to shut the fan off because that's connected with the light, and I don't want to mess with the fan, and I'm lazy. Yeah, the fact that all of the women are clairvoyant, I don't know if you needed that. I just prefer them being regular people in an unfortunate, crazy situation. Because again, it's more relatable to the viewer. Don't get me wrong, I mean, there's many movies with people who are playing characters who are clairvoyants that are perfectly fine. It's just with the first movie, that was sort of the big selling point, was that this was a typical regular family in an unfortunate situation. But Joe Beth Williams does a really good job selling it, despite what Gene Siskel has to say. May he rest in peace, but Gene Siskel, I think a lot of times, was a fucking idiot. To be blunt and honest, he was a fucking moron. And a lot of his opinions on movies sucked, to be perfectly honest. And he got paid. I'm jealous. He made a career of that. I'm jealous. But fuck. But hey, they light speed to cruise control. Yeah, this is where Kane walking by, and I guess there was a much longer scene originally. Pretty much Taylor going, you have to go back to where your house disappeared. And sorry I'm hesitating. It's hard to figure out what to talk about next. Because I know I keep repeating myself, but I did not grow up the film, so it's not like this big... I like the film. Like I said, I think it's a good sequel. It's just I didn't grow with the film, so I don't have like a big, huge love fondness for it. It's more like, I liked it, good sequel. But it's not like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 or 3 or some of these other sequels that I grew up with ever since I was a kid. Don't leave my ass. Get the fuck back here, Taylor. Fuck, are they eating chicken or something? They like... I don't know what a football helmet's going to do for your kid. I mean, what happened was your braces. That has nothing to do with a football helmet's not going to help your braces being turned on you again. Hope you know that, Robbie. What are you going to do with a baseball bat? Hit it a ghost with it? You being stupid, kid? Going to hit a ghost with a baseball bat? What you doing? The worm and the alcohol. This is a cool effect, seeing it open up. Its eyes open up. And this is getting to, one of the best scenes in the movie. The whole possession and then the vomit monster, and again, one of the scenes that I think people who do remember this film, one of the big scenes in the movie. I wonder how come Steven Spielberg didn't produce this either. Because he had a big hand in producing the first one, but his name is nowhere on this one. Yeah, his name is nowhere to be found on here. Yeah, that's a bit weird, bit strange, because I think his name is on like Gremlins 2 and other stuff, so it's a lot of ghosts. So when they're called the Ghostbusters. Don't eat the worm. If I felt something in my mouth going in the bowel, I would immediately spit it out. And I tried to chew and swallow it. What are you doing? Call Action Jackson to help you. Oh wait, you're the bad guy in that. He'll get the worm out of your stomach. Carl Weathers will ask, "How's your ribs? You know, how you want your ribs?" And Craig T. Nelson did a nice job trying to replicate Julian Beck. That's why I don't get why Craig T. Nelson wouldn't talk about this film. There's some good acting from him. It's a worthwhile sequel. Is it because of the ending? I mean, yeah, the ending's a bit funky looking, but it doesn't ruin the movie. In a weird way, he almost kind of has a look of Julian Beck. I don't know if it's just like the way the hair is down or the eyes or something. But yeah, Craig T. Nelson does a really, like I said, really nice job with this scene, and it's definitely something different for the characters to deal with. You know, one of them being possessed like this, and almost a rape scene if you think about it. Coming up, it's almost leads to that. Sorry, I blanked out there. I'm just watching the movie now. But I mean, I'd be curious to you guys' thoughts on the sequel, and if you don't like it, that's cool. You let me know what is it about you don't like specifically. Again, flaws, sure. The ending, the effects are a bit funky. But yeah, like scenes like this are very much make it a worthwhile sequel. Like, not something that should be forgotten, put in a dumpster. But yeah, I mean, that's why it would be nice to ask these actors, how was it filming this scene? Where, I mean, it's very different for the characters to deal with, whereas the actors dealing with a scene like this. Pretty intense, too. I mean, it's a pretty intense part of the movie, emotionally. Because, again, you like these characters, and the fact that they're having to go through all this. You're dealing with ghosts. You can't figure out what could be happening with this guy. But, but yeah, might not see much, but it's little things that they do that I enjoy after seeing so many movies with little things that progress the story that I like, that most people are like, fuck does that matter? But the little things can matter a lot to me. Like, for example, that it's Craig T. Nelson himself that decides to fight it. which shows a little bit of strength of the character. And then Jo Beth Williams immediately going, "Are you okay?" and being worried about him, which further shows that the love between the characters. You know, Tracy knows doing "Leave me alone," and she's begging, "What's the matter?" and trying to help and comfort him. I think little bits like that really add to the relationship between the two. And there we get the vomit monster. Definitely a crazy effect. And yeah, this is one of the designs by H.R. Giger, which apparently he was never happy when they were translated on the film, but what can you do? Sure, the effects guys love this because this thing under the bed so you didn't have to see it. Now apparently this the person in the suit was a Vietnam vet whose legs were blown off. Like he stepped off a helicopter. The best effect in the movie, this face, this like smile it gives. So like, and then the Jerry Goldsmith score doing a play on that God is in his holy temple, and yeah, that face is so creepy. And again, I think that's the best looking effect in the movie. I think he's on the back of this too. Yeah. You can't see it, but that guy there, easily the best effect in the movie, which you can't see because it's too dark, but love that effect. Such a good look. And then again, that weird, sinister, like smile, like grin, smirk. That weird smirk. But yeah, like I was saying, apparently the guy who was in that suit was a Vietnam vet. That in Vietnam he got off a helicopter and his legs got blown off immediately from like a mine or something. Not sure if it was a mine. I just, that's what I heard, is that his legs got immediately blown off, and then just went into doing stuff like this. This is another, I believe it was an H.R. Giger design. It seems like you don't get a good look at it. At least so far. Pretty much come up here, I think is the best look you'll get of it. Well, maybe you don't. Yeah, you don't really get a great look at the creature, and that's what he does as this power smoke. That's some good smoke. But again, that's what I like, is that Tracy Nelson actually has something to do. They gave Joe Beth stuff to do in the first one. They gave Tracy Nelson stuff to do in the second one. Yeah, that was nice. And then coming up here, they're going to be in the garage, and we'll see a chainsaw, which that has to be an ode to Tobe Hooper, of course, who directed the first one, with the chainsaw bit. And they're not in the garage yet, but coming up. And, the year it came out, this is 1986, it was a good year for movies. I mean, you had Aliens, Big Trouble in Little China, The Golden Child, Short Circuit. It's Cobra. Great year for movies, in my opinion. I don't know, the way films were shot back then, they looked like films. I don't know how to put it, but especially when you see them cleaned up in HD, they look like films. They're more visually appealing visual wise. I don't just maybe because there's no fucking filters, so it's looks natural. Maybe because it's not digital. So again, I don't know, just the way it looks and the lighting wise, film stock wise, it just looks more natural and more appealing. Like I'm repeating myself. Now things look too clean or just I get too filtered. So that just in a weird way at times, not all the time, but quite a few times it looks more phony and fake. Yeah, we were in the garage and now we got some electrical sparks. I like that Craig Nelson has become the protector of the family. That was a cool. Again, cool that they let him be able to do that after he didn't really do anything in the first movie. Of course, this film didn't do well, so that made people saw that, and in order to maybe appreciate that. Let go of the fucking thing, dog. Get your ass in here. Let go of it, motherfucker. I do wonder how they did that, like the spark. Does look like it hit the dog. Shit. Here's the chainsaw. Dude, this has to be an ode to Toby Hooper with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Which is, I mean, a fun idea, a floating chainsaw trying to get in the car. But yeah, I mean, watch this again. This movie is nowhere near as bad as people make it out to be. Nowhere near as bad. It's short. It doesn't overstay its welcome. You have some fun effects, some good standout effect scenes like this chainsaw revving right through the damn car. Or the vomit monster. The good character actors like Julian Beck and Will Sampson as Reverend Kane and Taylor. These actors do a good job. Yeah, Jared Goldsmith doing another solid composing job. That car is fucked up. Foobarred. Drive straight, don't drive in the ditch. So what are you gonna do now? You don't go to Applebee's? Applebee's. Do you imagine that's like a IHOP commercial? After a day of dealing with those poltergeists, take the family and enjoy a nice, comfy meal at IHOP or Applebee's. I do wonder if they thought about recasting the older daughter. Because there's many films that have done that where they recast someone, but I mean, the Vacation movies, like the kids, are played by different actors. Just like Anthony Michael Hall was Rusty in the first one, then a different person in the second one, another different person in the third in Christmas Vacation. They must not have lived far from their old house because they made it there the same night. They didn't like... How... What? Did they live 5 miles away? So pretty much they're going to the hole where their house used to be. And there's Tangina. I don't know why Tangina's there. She doesn't fucking do anything. I mean, when we watch the film, like, you tell me what the hell did Tangina do in this scene? Pretty much there as a wallflower. Just Taylor's the one that helps out, not Tangina. Again, sorry I'm not saying much. I'm kind of running out of steam because that's what's hard about doing commentaries, is that since I didn't work on the film, I don't have anyone to talk with. It's hard to keep going and find something interesting to say, and instead of just rambling on and repeating the same damn thing like I did before. But I mean, the first Poltergeist I guess I'll mention. I don't know who really directed. I mean, Tobe Hooper or Steven Spielberg. I know when that trailer came out, the first film, and then Spielberg's name's like huge, fucking honking huge, and then Tobe Hooper's like a lot smaller. So wait a minute, I directed this movie. But then there's people who say Spielberg did. There's people who say that Tobe Hooper did it. Seems like one of those things that maybe Steven Spielberg kind of ghost directed it. Maybe not every scene, but a good chunk of it is ghost directed by him. That is a bit of a funky effect where the Joe Beth and Heather Ward get pulled into the other side. I mean, I think it would have been better if it was like in, was it Nightmare on Elm Street 3 at the end when they're pulled into the mirrors? At the end of that film, by all the images of Freddy. Like maybe they're pulled into the wall, which actually that would remind me of the Super Mario Brothers movie, going to the wall. But yeah, I mean, you could tell that this ending was very shortened and truncated, because it goes by very quickly, this battle. I did, apparently it was a longer battle, but they thought, well, these effects, people are not going to buy this stuff, so let's show as little of it as possible. Whereas I'm like, then why not just have a battle in this cave system? You literally could just have the same battle, but in this cave. And you could have the monster appear in the cave. You didn't have to go to the other side. Or the other side could have been this black void where people can walk and... Yeah, here we go. Floating. Free falling. I mean, watching it in Blu-ray HD, I've seen worse. I mean, yeah, I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse. And this seems like a cool design of a monster. Again, seems like you don't get the best look. Very creepy effect where it's Carol Ann being drained of her life and Preeti Nelson just to be a badass. Spear the fucker. But yeah, it's very quick. It's like, wait a minute, it's over now? Which I guess, I mean, in retrospect, I guess you just assume, why should it be longer? But I guess the idea originally was that you see all these bright lights, their souls following Carol Ann into the light, so they're free, those souls. But you don't really get the gist of that unless someone explains it to you. But here we go. Again, it's not... It's kind of hokey, but again, you know, they do have the power of the glow from The Last Dragon. But I mean, it's sugary sweet, but it's still sweet. And you know, the actors sell it. So I mean, again, I don't watch it. It's... I could deal with it. Watch it again. It's not like a deal breaker. It is for a lot of people, but for me, I've seen much worse, especially for finales. Some battle, huh? Or like, for example, the Poltergeist 3 finale is much worse than that. Hell, I mean, I liked the film The Commuter, but the fucking CGI train wreck was horrible in that Liam Neeson film. Again, I liked the film, but that CGI in the third act with the train wrecking itself apart is pretty god awful. Your car wants to come home with me. You asked it? Yes. It sure? Idea of a fun little banter. Now you notice Tangina disappeared. Where's Tangina? Like, where is Tangina? She didn't come out. She's not there. We're like, where's Tangina? There's no one else in the car. Did you just see there's no one in the passenger seat? Like, where's Tangina? Did she taking a shit? Like, you know, where is she? And once again, great score by Jerry Goldsmith. But yeah, that's Poltergeist 2. I'll stay for the end credits. Oh, George P. Wilbur was a stunt player. George P. Wilbur, if that's the same George Wilbur, he played Michael Myers in Halloween 4 and 6. Psychic advisor Jill Cook? There was a psychic advisor? Why? I mean, okay. Concept artist H.R. Dieter, which again, apparently he was never happy with how his stuff was translated to the screen, but yeah, they're cool designs. Really, the one that you get to see the most is that vomit monster. The others, you don't get the best look of them. Usually it's like brief glances, and they're nice, but would have been nice to see a little bit of more screen time with those other H.R. Dieter designs. Digital keyboards by Yamaha. Visual effects art director John Bruno. Isn't that the guy that directed Virus? John Bruno? I think that's the guy who went on to direct Virus with Jamie Lee Curtis. Which this movie's a lot better than that. Like Virus, the one good thing I'll say about it is the effects, but that's it. Like this to me is a much better film than Virus. I mean Virus, good effects. That's all I can give you is good effects. And that was a disappointing film. Jamie Lee Curtis does absolutely nothing in that movie. She's a useless character. She doesn't even fight the creature, destroy the creature. She's just a wallflower on that. And there's other reasons too. Streaming Mad George, who would work on Elm Street 4, the bug scene, the Roach Motel scene. That was Streaming Mad George. I think he also worked on the Guyver, the first Guyver. Color Timer. Robert Kaiser gets the final credits. This is 1986. So with that, thank you once again, Chris, for the Blu-ray. Obviously, it was hard for them to get features. Because, like, you know, who's going to talk about the film? But again, you do get 2 commentary tracks. Interview with the kid, Oliver Robbins. Interview with the effects guys. Look at contributions of artist H.R. Dieter featuring rare photos and illustrations. And interview with his friend and agent Les Barony. Trailer, TV spots, still galleries. And pretty decent cover. So, glad to have this for my collection. Thank you once again, Chris. I hope this commentary was okay. If not, I do apologize for how crappy it is. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. And we will see you in the next video. Later.